As you drive or walk through the city of Johannesburg, it has become very common to see water running down the street with large pipes spewing water out on the ground in many suburbs. There are many challenges the city faces when it comes to providing water to its residents. Dr. Darlington, a water expert and researcher from the Wits Gauteng City Observatory, explains more of these challenges in detail.
The way the city is configured spatially is to it also creates challenges in the provision of water services. Right? So that issue relates to how the city is expanding. Remember, we talked about people coming in. So there is the housing department building houses, and the way those houses are planned can also pose a challenge. So, for example, there is something that they call in urban planning urban sprawl, like the construction of settlements spreading far away from the main center. Right? So, for example, if you look at places like Cosmos City, if you go down Orange Farm, and many other places that are on the periphery. So, what is happening there is that people are getting settled away from the main system. And as a result, the city has to struggle to then pump water to those areas. There's something that they call densification. Densification has to do with the utilization of open spaces within the city, so that, for example, what's happening in Midrand and the Waterfall area and other places where you're filling in spaces, that's densification. Those areas are not easy, are easy to provide water because they're very close to the main system. But those ones that are very far away, are difficult. So the city has to do extra work to invest in providing water to those. And that also stems from maybe some disconnection in terms of planning between the various departments. So one of the findings in the research I did was that there is difference. So the housing department, works independently. Their job is to provide houses. So the water department is to come in to provide water, but they're saying you are building houses further away from the mains. It makes it difficult to provide water to those people. And then specific to Johannesburg, it can apply to other metros in Gauteng, is the issue of informality. Right? So informality, remember we talked about people coming in. Informality is like a two-pronged thing. On the one side, you have poverty as a structural problem in South Africa. Many people are poor; they cannot afford to stay in formal houses, and as a result, they end up in informal settlements. So what then happens is that when they get to those informal settlements, the government is obliged constitutionally by the law to provide services to those kinds of people. And providing services to informal settlements is difficult because it's not planned. So it becomes very difficult to know how many people are living in the informal settlements.
Joburg residents have become used to having no water in their homes. However, this has become far more frequent and for much longer periods of time. For example, residents in the south of Joburg, particularly wards 52 to 56, have been complaining of having no water for over 3 months at a time. The Department of Water and Sanitation, in communication with Joburg Water, has provided water tanks to the affected areas. However, these tanks are often far walking distances away for some residents, and many, such as the elderly, struggle to carry back buckets full of water to their homes. Schools and hospitals have had to shut down in the areas due to a lack of water, which has affected all areas of life for these residents.
I think that the question is very clear, is that what's going on? Firstly, I have to say that a lot of us in Johannesburg are confused about what's going on, and it depends on who you're listening to at which time of day. So the one thing that we are finding is that the link of water to health, to education, to food at the moment in city of Joburg is becoming very real. So when communities, for example, in the south have been cut for 2 weeks, they've actually shut down schools for as long as 2 weeks. And so kids are not able to learn. It's not the same as COVID where people can do it online. So there's all of those challenges. And I think that it raises it. I think what's happening in Joburg is a snapshot of what is going on in different degrees across the country. I don't think that it's only in Johannesburg, but what is important about what is going on in Joburg right now is that Johannesburg is the economic hub. For more than a year now, various suburbs and communities have been experiencing water cuts for extended periods of time. Now, I have to say that this is not a new thing for many poorer communities or rural areas where they have had cut-offs on a regular basis. This has hit a big city, and so of course it's in the media. It's the same way that Cape Town had day zero in 2018. Everyone knew about it, but other cities and towns that have day zero, it's a bit silent on that. But I think that what we're seeing is a complete failure in infrastructure, and part of that is linked to mismanagement, is linked to corruption, and it's linked to a lack of maintenance of our infrastructure for a number of years. And we're not spending enough money on that infrastructure.
That was Dr. Ferial Adam from Watercan speaking on resident challenges in the discussion The Water Crisis, Reimagining Joburg. Residents are encouraged to educate themselves in water-saving methods in the meantime and to make sure to always report any leaks seen to your local municipality in hopes of minimizing the water crisis. While there are certainly many challenges that do not seem to be getting resolved anytime soon, there are various projects being worked on to try and aid the water situation our city is facing. Sean Phillips, the Director General from the Department of Water and Sanitation, explains some of these solutions in the talk, The Water Crisis, Reimagining Joburg.
In Johannesburg, the way water is supplied is that Rand Water abstracts raw water from the integrated Vaal River system, which is managed by DWS. Rand Water treats that water and stores it in reservoirs, and then it sells that treated water to Joburg Water. Joburg Water in turn also stores water in its reservoirs and it distributes the water to households. One of our roles as the national department is to be very careful about the amount of water that's abstracted from the raw water sources, like the integrated Vaal River system. So we set an abstraction limit on the amount of water that Rand Water can abstract from the Vaal River system. And the reason why we do that is because while the dams might now be full, we don't know what's going to happen in a few months' time. We don't know if there's going to be a drought. So we have to be very careful. We can't allow very high levels of abstraction and then run the risk of the dams running completely dry, a day zero type of situation, if there's a severe drought. And a severe drought is quite possible. We know that the El Nino event has started again in South Africa. So we have to be very careful with how much water can be abstracted to avoid an even worse scenario where we run out of water altogether if there's a drought. The plan is in the Department of Water and Sanitation foresaw that the Gauteng population and economy was going to grow rapidly. And that's why they planned the Lesotho Highlands project to add a lot more water from the highlands in Lesotho into the integrated Vaal River system. So the first phase of that was completed, and the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands project was supposed to be completed in 2019. But unfortunately, it's 9 years overdue, and it's only now to be completed and to start providing additional water into the integrated Vaal River system in 2028. Rand Water currently has a capital program of 35 billion, which is starting to implement so that by the time that additional water comes into the integrated Vaal River system in 2028, it will have the additional capacity to treat a lot more water. and provide it to the municipalities. People in Gauteng and industries in Gauteng need to treat water more as a scarce resource than they're currently doing, because we are a dry area in a dry country, and it's very expensive to bring additional water into Gauteng. There is light at the end of the tunnel, because the additional water will be coming into the Vaal River system by 2028. What should we do in the meantime? We are meeting continuously with the municipalities and with Rand Water, and we are strongly encouraging and supporting the municipalities to reduce the leaks of the treated water in their systems.
Water shortages seem to be the new norm that Joburg residents are going to have to live with for a couple years. Many solutions are only expected to be fully implemented by 2028, and it is still unclear how the various departments will afford to upgrade the infrastructure required for these projects to be a success. You've been listening to In Depth, Finding Solutions to the Johannesburg Water Crisis, an episode of the We Should Be Writing podcast. This podcast is a product of the Honours in Journalism and Media Studies program at the Wits Centre for Journalism in Johannesburg. The producer, editor, and show host was Georgia Cartwright. The theme music was composed by Lexin Music on Pixabay. Additional episode music creds and info are available on our Anchor FM page. On all our social media, we are Wits Vuvuzela, and you can see all of our work on witsvuvuzela.com.